Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of The Studio. My name is Adam, and it's time for another Q&A. Thank you so much to my studio VIPs, Luke Uemura, Leo Palacios, Cesar Marquez, and Artifact Percussion. Thank you so much for supporting the studio show. And today's featured studio artist is Patrick Gelvin. Thank you so much for supporting the show. And if you would like to become a studio artist or studio VIP, you can go to patreon.com/Adam10, or you can click over here. 5,000 subscribers, guys. Thank you so much for all the support. It has been over a year since we started the studio show with that Marimba 1 review, and we have come a long way since then. You know, the production quality has gotten a lot better. I've become less boring.
See, that's no good. See, you don't know how to act.
And I'm really grateful to have you guys on the journey with me. So once again, thank you so much. And as always, because of this milestone, today's episode is going to be a Q&A, so I'll be answering your questions that you've asked in the comments below. So the first question is, have I ever marched? So a lot of you guys have been asking me whether or not I can review marching stuff, whether or not I can talk about marching techniques, like stuff related to drumline. These are all things that I find very fascinating, but unfortunately I've never had any experience in it because in Australia, we don't really have a marching program. There are a few marching ensembles in Australia, but it's not really like in schools or in universities. There's no DCI, there's no WGI. I mean, it'd be great if we could have that over here, but for now, we don't really have that. So I can't really give advice on marching stuff, including gear or techniques on this channel because I just don't know anything about it. But my friend Daniel, who is Swiss Cheese and Beats on YouTube, you should look up his channel. It's in the description below, or you can click over here. Daniel makes a lot of high quality marching content on his channel, lots of tutorials, lots of reviews on marching gear specifically. So if you are interested in that kind of stuff, I urge you to check out his channel. He's doing an excellent job with the production quality and all that sort of stuff. Shout out to the plug, Daniel. The next question is from C McAgia3, which says, do you have any tips on learning a solo without a board? Thanks for the question, Cheryl. I believe this question is about practicing without a marimba, without an instrument. What do you do if you have a concert or something to prepare for and you don't have a marimba? So just for some context, I never owned a marimba in high school. I never owned a marimba for most of my university life. I would always just go to school or to university to practice. I didn't really have any space at home for a marimba. So I'm very familiar with the situation of not owning a marimba, and it's totally fine. Like, not everyone can afford to buy an expensive instrument the very first time. So what do you do?
I am going to try something else.
My first tip for learning a solo if you don't have a marimba is to use a piano. Now, I know not everyone watching this channel will be like really good at piano, but that's okay. You don't need to be like super good at piano to be able to play marimba solos on piano. When I was in high school, and even now when I'm trying to learn and memorize passages with muscle memory as well as the musical memory, I like to go on the piano and I hold my hands kind of like this, like some faux Stevens grip. And obviously on the piano, it's a lot smaller. It's probably going to be easier for some people. It might actually be harder for some people because it's quite awkward to do some things that you can only do on marimba on the piano. But I believe by using a piano, you can learn more tricky passages a bit quicker because the notes are closer together. So you spend less time worrying about the technicalities of missing notes because, you know, you can't reach it on the marimba or whatever, and you can just play them. And then as you're playing it on the piano with your faux Stevens / traditional grip, you will actually start to hear the piece coming out. And I also find that it's really helpful for boosting your memory of the piece because you get to hear like the harmonies, you get to hear the structure, and also a lot of marimba music, especially the sort that is written by non-percussionist composers, tends to be written on the piano first and then transcribed to marimba. Like, it's a trend that you either love or hate, but it happens. But yeah, anyway, I learned a lot of my recital repertoire, like the notes and stuff, on piano because I played piano for about 10 years and I found it really helpful, so I hope you find it helpful as well. Tip number 2 to learn a solo is to sing your part. Now, some people might be totally against the idea of playing on piano. They might be totally against the idea of playing on the floor, but singing your part is something that you can do quite easily, and it will help you understand why the voices are in certain registers. Like for me right now, I'm learning Lemuria, and I like to sing the melodies because I remember the rhythms a lot more clearly when I can hear it in my head. And singing it as I'm driving or as I'm in the shower or whatever helps a lot with my memory. The third thing you can try is to use a practice implement such as a practice marimba or a practice mat. Now this third tip is more technique heavy, so a practice marimba or a practice implement like a practice mat is not so helpful for the first time you're learning a piece if your technique is not great, because then your technique will just get in the way, but even worse, you won't even be able to hear the music, so you just lose on all counts. But everyone is different, so if you have no other alternative, it might be worth a try.
Okay.
And of course, if you need any help on how to learn a marimba solo, I have a video called How to Learn and Practice Any Marimba Solo. It's in the description below, or you can click over here. And there's also a PDF you can download for that video at adamtanpercussion.com/download. But anyway, speaking of practice marimbas, our next question is from Nathan Whitney, and he says, what are your honest thoughts on practice marimbas? Now, if you're not sure what a practice marimba is, it's basically what a practice pad for a marimba would be like. A marimba with all the bars, with a frame, but with no resonators. So it makes no sound, but it has the same feel as a real marimba. So on paper, actually, a practice marimba makes a lot of sense because, well, it's everything you ever needed on a marimba, but without the sound. Great, I won't disturb neighbors, it's very convenient, I can practice all the time, I can practice at home, and hopefully it's a little bit cheaper than a real marimba. But that's one of the reasons why I didn't buy a practice marimba, is because it doesn't really offer much of an advantage over buying a real marimba. Firstly, the price. If you are to buy a really cheap practice marimba, that is like a 3.5 octave practice marimba, which would be pretty much the same size as a xylophone, it'd be really small and it'd be really compact, really convenient, but it's not really a marimba. Like, you're not going to be able to play much serious marimba solo repertoire on it, and even if you do, it's not going to be the same feeling as a real marimba. But if you buy a full-size practice marimba that is like 4 1/3 octave, 4 1/6 octave, 5 octave, like it has graduated bars and is pretty much 1-to-1 to a real marimba, it costs almost the same as a real marimba. And I get it, there's the argument that if you buy a practice marimba, like a 5 octave one, it's a lot cheaper than buying a 5 octave marimba. That is true. But I think if you're in the market to buy a full-size practice marimba, you'd be looking for the maximum value for your money. Like, you'd have a budget of maybe about $5,000 to $6,000. And to buy a 5 octave instrument that can't be used to perform seems a little strange. Now, the second reason why people buy practice marimbas is because of the convenience, you know, because it's quieter and because it takes up less space. But the fact is, practice marimbas, when you hit them, they still make noise. They still make a bit of resonant noise. So you still get tick, 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 tick. And the frame tends to be almost the same size as the real thing, because, I mean, that's the whole point. It's meant to simulate the real thing. So you get this big instrument that still makes noise, not as much noise as the real thing, but it still makes noise, and you can't actually use it to perform. If I had the choice between a 4 1/3 Padauk, like a Yamaha YM1430, or a full-size 4 1/3 practice marimba, like something from Demoro, both of which are great instruments, I would choose the YM1430 because it is something that I can actually use to play, like I can actually perform with it, I can actually use it at gigs, and if I wanted to use it as a practice marimba, I could just take the resonators out, and then it would basically be the same thing. But like I said, this is a case-by-case thing. Like, some people can find really good deals on practice marimbas, and honestly, practice marimbas are really well-built instruments. They're really good, and if you can find it for a good price, why not? And going on from the theme of continuous questions, the next question is from Root202, who says, "Hey Adam, I was wondering if you have any advice for adapting towards different marimba sizes. During auditions, I found that it is particularly hard to play on a marimba 1 instrument when I've been playing on a smaller octave marimba. My accuracy also tends to drop due to the larger spacing." So a lot of people always say, Adam, aren't all 5 octave marimbas basically the same? I mean, they all have 5 octaves, they're all made of wood, and they're all the same size, right? So they should all feel the same, no matter who's playing it, and you know, there's no difference. I mean, that's almost the same as saying a Mercedes C-Class and a BMW 3 Series are the same car. I mean, they're both German, they're both luxury sedans, so you could just buy either, right? No! As is the case with most things, 5 octave marimbas are not standardized. The sizes are all slightly different, the spaces are all slightly different. For example, my Marimba 1 Izzy is a lot narrower than most Musa marimbas, and then I find that the Adams Alpha is also slightly wider than my Marimba 1 Izzy. So most competitions, most concerts, most performance opportunities, you'll get a whole host of marimba brands to choose from. So the first thing to do is to make sure you are familiar with which marimba brand you're going to be using most. That is, if you study at a school or a university, make sure you know which brand of marimba is the one that you'll be doing all your exams or your recitals on. That is very important because a lot of people underestimate that. Once you know the exact model of marimba that you'll be using the most for your recitals over the next few years, or your performances, or your juries. So for example, for me, it was a Yamaha YM5100 at UWA. But now it's a Marimba 1 Izzy because that's my instrument. then you can look into making a practice mat. So if you know exactly what model of marimba you're going to be using, take down the measurements and make yourself a practice mat, whether it's out of paper or out of cloth, or use some sewing tricks, get your grandma or your grandpa involved, like get the whole family involved.
You think I don't know about your report card, Kelvin? Let me see your report card.
And sew yourself a nice big marimba blanket. But of course, if you are incompetent like me, you have no sense of sewing or knitting skills or any sort of craft skills whatsoever, then you can go and buy a practice mat from someone who makes them. And a person that I know, shout out to Sticks Music in Macau, they make these tarp practice mats. I reviewed one of them in my vlog very briefly. You can check it out over here. Otherwise, leading up to your exam or recital, make sure you get as much time on the real instrument as possible. Don't underestimate the difference in spacing. It makes a huge difference. Next question is another suggestion that I get asked a lot. Is from Juan, who says, can you do some vibe mallet reviews? As you guys know, I have the One Vibe in the studio. If you haven't already checked out the One Vibe review, it's on my channel. But basically, I will be reviewing these vibe mallets as well. I'm not a vibe expert by any means, but I'll do my best to give like a reasonable review of them, I guess. But thank you for the suggestion. Next question is from Kaylee, and it says, how do you build up a resistance to scalus if you're using gel protectors to cover your finger all the time? So if you guys haven't watched my blisters video, it's over here, the how to stop blisters video, which talks about using gel protectors on your hands. And I'll be honest, like I still use my finger protectors sometimes because I still get little blisters here and there. But what Kaylee seems to be asking is whether or not you can build up a resistance to a scalus so that you don't have to wear the finger protectors all the time. And a short answer to that is yes, you can build up a resistance to it gradually. I would recommend taking off the finger protectors for easier pieces if you wish to build up resistance to this scalus. And yes, it will hurt a little bit, but as you do it more, just like djembe or any sort of hand drums, your skin will toughen up. But things that are like mission critical, things that are high pressure, I tend to put them on just in case. So it's a bit of a mixed bag for me, but I know some players who go without all the time, and I know some players who go with all the time. So it's really up to you. But yes, if you want to build up a resistance, don't rush it. Don't just go straight into your hardest piece without them and go, ah, because that would be really bad. Next question is from Matt McLellan, who says, how do I have your job? Like you want to trade lives? I'm a music student and it's all yours. Oh, Matt. The reason why I bring up this question is because everyone seems to think that doing this whole video thing is very hard. And it is, it's very difficult, but it's not impossible. And at the same time, I'm not like sitting on piles of money. I'm not super rich or anything like that. People seem to think I'm super rich because I own a 5-octave marimba. Like it's not impossible to save up for your own 5-octave marimba. I just worked up for it using like all my teaching money and all that sort of stuff. And you guys can do it too. So just be proactive, set yourself goals, and just take every opportunity you can. Like sometimes you might have to work a not so attractive job to be able to do things like this, like shoot videos or go on trips, go to like PASIC and stuff like that. Like that stuff costs a lot of money, but it's worth working for. So Matt, to answer your question, I was a music student just a few months ago. I'm graduated now, but how to get this job, if you can even call it a job, well, just be yourself, man. Just do it. And no, I don't think I want to trade lives right now, but I'll keep it in mind. The final question comes from someone that I think you're all very familiar with. I think she did this as a joke, but oh, okay, Therese, that is a lot of questions, but I'll answer them as quickly as I can. So what brought you to learning percussion and focusing on marimba? I started learning percussion in 2007. That was when I was in year 8, my first year of secondary school. And basically, back then I was terrible. I knew nothing about percussion. I only had my 10 years of piano experience. Everything else, I knew nothing. Like I was just dumb.
And I'm kind of dumb, like I said at the beginning.
And I think I've told you guys this before, but in high school, I didn't really take my practice very seriously. Please take your practice seriously if you're in high school, because I was just terrible. I wouldn't rock up to lessons. I was totally unprepared. I mean, I still managed to pull out pieces, but it wasn't great. Then I went to university and I did a bachelor degree in percussion, which was the first time I really took percussion seriously. But even then, for the first 2 years, I wasn't that great. Again, I didn't practice much. And at times I wanted to quit and do piano. How wrong was I? And there were many times throughout that process where I wanted to quit and just do something like commerce or engineering or something like that. I didn't really start taking marimba seriously until my master's year in 2016. That's when I bought a 5-octave marimba. That's when I got the studio. That's when I started this show. You guys know that bit already, but essentially I just really like marimba. I just really enjoy playing it, and that's why I play marimba more than anything else right now. Next question, who was your most inspirational teacher and what did he do? Over the last 10 years of percussion, I've had 4 teachers, 1 in high school and 3 3 in university. And my first university teacher, his name was Paul Tanner. He's still a percussion teacher now. He also plays in the Western Australian Symphony Orchestra. He's just a great guy. And basically during the first 2 years, as I said before, I was not great. You know, I didn't practice. I would rock up to lessons, having tried something maybe once that week, and I came in and I didn't really know how to play the next page. I was just sort of guessing it, sight reading it. I was one of the worst students you could possibly have. Paul was a really nice guy, but there was a limit to how much I could put him through with my terrible practice ethics. So one day, he just decided enough was enough, and he stormed out of the room. I think he said something along the lines of, if you're not going to put in the effort, then there's no point in me being here. And with that, he walked out of the room, and I didn't see him again that day, and I was quite upset. But that was what changed me. That was what changed my attitude from being like, you know what, practice isn't that important, to I want to impress my teacher and I want to do good for myself. Like, I want to actually have a good standard for myself. After that, I practiced, and I will never forget that experience, because that was one of the things that made me into who I am today. What was your first 4 mallet piece? My first 4 mallet piece was Rain Dance. I didn't really play Rain Dance very well, but was it Rain Dance? What moved you to write Path? Essentially, I thought of Path as like 2 people who have a relationship, whether it's like a love relationship or a platonic relationship, whatever, like maybe they're friends or maybe they're a couple or something, and they go on this path together in life, and you know, they're like together for most of it, and then they get into like arguments, or like things happen, conflicts happen, things change. And then somehow, because of the trust and because of their relationship together, they get back together and they continue going on the path onwards into the future together. And that sounds incredibly cheesy, Korean drama material right there. Anyone who's performing my piece Path right now, please perform it with you in mind, with your story, with your feelings, your intentions, because that is going to be the most beautiful rendition of Path. I don't care what anyone says. Here we go. Why didn't you learn some proper vibraphone music and just playing pop songs? You know my secret! If the world didn't have black and white colors, what color would you pick your suitcase and your mallet wrapping tape and your hoodies? I believe this is a reference to the fact that in all my videos I say I like black a lot because I wear a lot of black, you know, like my shoes are black. I just love black things, okay? It's just really like understated. I mean, even the background of this video is black, okay? So if I had to choose a color that wasn't black or white for my suitcase or my wrapping tape or my hoodies, I'd probably choose something like red because it's bright and in your face. Like me! Anyway, thank you to everyone for submitting your questions. That is the end of today's Q&A episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions to ask me or any suggestions, anything like that, leave it in the comments below. You might be in the next Q&A. And as always, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and please hit that red subscribe button below if you haven't already to keep up with my uploads. Thank you so much for 5,000 subscribers. That is a huge way from where we started, which was basically like 1 subscriber. Myself. Thank you so much for all your support, especially during this time where I'm preparing for my recital, as well as PASIC, as well as the Hong Kong concert. Like, there's a lot of stuff happening at the moment, but I am going to keep the show going, of course. And of course, just a quick reminder, PAS Hong Kong is happening on 4th November and 5th November 2017 at the HKICC Lee Shao Ki School of Creativity, which is a really big school. PAS Hong Kong, the first concert is with my friend Matthew Lau. It's an afternoon concert. You must check it out because Matthew is amazing. And Therese and I will be playing our Marimba duo concert at the second concert, which is on the night of 4th of November. So if you're gonna be in Hong Kong at that time, I would love to see you there. You guys might have noticed this on the last video, but on the Thursday of PASIC, Rob Nopper and I will be doing a studio family / team Nopper meetup and panel. So we're gonna have like a very casual discussion type thing. Like, you guys are welcome to come and just chill with us. We're just gonna be talking about random like YouTube stuff. And yeah, it'll be a good opportunity for us to meet you guys because we would love to meet all of you guys. And we might even be bringing some special guests along that you guys might be very familiar with. And finally, of course, on my home turf, the UWA School of Music, our duo recital, Marimba Dreams. If you're gonna be in Perth at the time, at 9:30 AM on the 19th of November 2017, we're having a masterclass with Therese. And at 7 PM GMT +8, which is Perth time, we will be presenting the live stream on this channel right here. So if you wanna stay tuned for that, make sure you hit the red subscribe button below and keep up with the uploads of this channel because it will be coming live on that day at 7 PM. But once again, thank you so much for watching this episode. Thank you so much for watching the show. And I will see you guys next week for another episode of The Studio. Good night.